Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorkel Profiles, along with social media maven and co-president and Woman Mountain in Business, who has generously offered to co-host with me while Tracy Cow is caught up in a whirlwind called life. Meet Deb Evans. If you don't already know her, many of you will remind her. She's been in the franchise space for many, many years and was the co-host of the Social Geek Radio. So thank you so much, Deb, for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Our special guest today is Lisa Oak. Lisa is the Chief Development Officer of BIGGBY Coffee and a dear friend of Deb's. Lisa joined the BIGGBY Coffee team in 2019 and provides leadership guidance to this team to grow from 300 plus stores to 1,000 stores by 2028. Not only is Lisa passionate about the company's growth trajectory, she's also dedicated to the company's mantra to support you in building a life you love. All day, every day, Lisa gets to support franchise owners and home office team members as they build their own versions of the American dream. Lisa earned her law degree at
Quinnipiac.
Thank you. I knew I would blow it. University School of Law, where she is also an adjunct professor. In fact, Lisa's 30-plus year career in franchising started with a summer job during law school. She was hired to negotiate real estate leases for new franchise locations in the Subway franchise organization. But growth opportunities quickly turned the summer job into a 29-year career where Lisa helped grow the Subway brand from 700 locations to 40,000 locations in over 100 countries. Now, Lisa is a true New Yorker, but she's living in Connecticut. So welcome, Lisa. I am so grateful you said yes to being interviewed today.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's my pleasure to be here and to hang out with you and Deb during this time. That's not something I get to do every day.
Hey, doesn't get any better than that, right? I love it.
It's a coffee chat.
I'm sorry.
It's a coffee chat.
It's a coffee chat. I have tea. Does that work for now? Because I
Absolutely
did coffee this morning.
Absolutely.
So Lisa, I mean, I'm joking about it, but you really were difficult to wrangle and get on the show. Now I know you're busy and you have a lot of people pulling at you. But I also understand some of it is you just don't particularly like being out front. So tell us a little bit about that part of you. It seems to be kind of a theme in your life.
I suppose it has been a theme in my life and throughout my career, but it really never came to the forefront of my mind until Bob Fish, co-founder of BIGGBY Coffee, dubbed it as my desire to be behind the curtain and have others in the forefront, in the spotlight, if you will. My career has always been in supporting people in building a life they love, and very much in the background.
You know, I do think there are people that's their gifting. That's their gifting, is to hold others up and help them discover who they are and articulate their dream, and then support them to get where they want to go. And no attention or limelight is necessary. There's joy just in that, right? Just in supporting. So,
you know, Rebecca, but Lisa does more than just support. That New Yorker comes out in her. So it's not just support, and it definitely in my career, you know, it's a little push, it's a lot of mentoring, you know, that falls under that support. She's just that advocate for you and what you can do to be the best you, and no matter what it is. And not to forget, sometimes it's all about profit too.
Yeah, it really is. I guess I'm just curious, Lisa, because I see you that way too, as not just a supporter, but a mentor and a leader, leading from behind, leading by example, all of those things that make for a good leader. But where did this part of you come from? I mean, is this always been you through your childhood, through university, where you really were focused on others?
I don't know is the short answer, but my guess is it was early in my career. As you said in my intro, my first role at Subway was to negotiate leases for franchisees going into new locations that would become Subway sandwich shops. And one of the things I absolutely loved about that job, and still think it's the best job in the world, is that there's immediate gratification. When you've gotten a good deal or you've gotten a mediocre deal, or you know what, you could have done better. Nobody has to tell you that. You know that in the moment. And very early on, I became keenly aware that my ability to get really great deals for franchise owners can define their profitability and therefore their success. So that huge responsibility was very energizing for me. And as a result, I learned a lot about commercial real estate, obviously, a lot about negotiating, and a lot about myself and what kind of a negotiator I was and how I was going to fulfill my responsibility in getting them the very best deals possible. As you said, it started as a summer job while I was in law school. And at the end of the summer, they were just so busy. They asked me to stay on and take on part-time hours while I finished my degree, which of course I did, and realized that the personal satisfaction of doing deals was very important to me. I also realized that the personal satisfaction in supporting franchise owners and building what I've always called their version of the American dream was also very satisfying. And that's what caused me to go from a part-time employee during school to a full-time employee after I was admitted to the Connecticut bar. Though I never actually practiced law in all these decades since I earned my degree, obviously that background in education has been very helpful to me as I grew in the responsibility in the Subway organization, and stayed for 29 years. And that was, how shall I say, just an opportunity that was amazing. I wouldn't trade 5 minutes of it for anything.
Wow. Wow. Think about that, Deb, where you can look back at your life, 29 years, loving what you're doing, loving it, right?
Yeah.
Being good at it. That's just amazing to me. There's no doubt a part of what a lawyer does is negotiate, right? Is to kind of go back and forth and find the best possible solution for their client. So your education and your expertise came in really beneficial for all those franchisees at Subway. But the part as a behavioral scientist that I find fascinating is you quickly learned what brought you satisfaction. It was in the deal, right? It was in the deal itself. I think many of us go years, lifetime, not knowing exactly what brings us that kind of joy and that kind of satisfaction as what you had in your first job during university, and you kept it for 29 years. So that's become kind of almost a mission or a purpose for you now, is to
Absolutely.
can you expound on that just a little bit? You found it, now you're wanting others to find it also.
Yes, absolutely. So, deal making, I call myself a deal junkie, was the original hook, if you will. But as I advanced in my career, I was responsible for a team and growing a team. And those are skills I absolutely had to learn on the job. They don't teach you that in law school. So, so it became a new challenge, and quickly I realized the dovetail, because when I was starting out, I was directly supporting franchise owners.
Mhm.
And as I worked with and developed the team members, I had to tap into what their hopes and dreams were and ascertain how I could help them achieve their goals, which of course I wanted them to be, those goals to be to stay on my team and grow in the team. And sometimes I had to realize that what I really needed to do was to help them find another position in the organization, and even sometimes outside of the organization, so they can find their passion. And quickly I learned that that's what my job was, that, and a team consists of all kinds of people.
Mhm.
Because if I just hired people like myself, oh my gosh, a lot of things would get broken. So
Actually, I'm
the
gonna
old,
ask Deb about that. What do you think about 17 Elisa Oaks out there?
No, she's too unique.
we all know the adage, you have to hire to complementary skills, right? And that's obviously what I sought. And 20.
Lisa's got that gift to know what your strengths are and what they're not. So I really think you've got that gift, and then
Thank
how
you.
to build that team, so that as a team, you're strong with, different individual personalities and strengths and weaknesses. And it's a gift, and not everybody can do it. And we know that she's got it, because look at what she's done with her career and the franchises that she's been associated with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I take a lot of pride in that. Folks that I hired early in my career at Subway remain part of the organization with me or without me, 20, 25, sometimes 30 years, and still good friends today. So I'm, very blessed to have those relationships and those long-term relationships, and we can look back on the crazy things that we did, and the deals that we did that others said couldn't happen, you're never going to get that or whatever. We just took it on as a challenge and learned from it and grew from it. You got to keep the mind engaged. When you do the same thing for a number of years on end, it could get routine, but always need to keep the intellectual stimulation coming to grow.
Yeah, that's a biggie for me too.
Yeah.
I need the intellectual stimuli to learn, to grow, to meet the next challenge. But I do think when I look at typical employers, right, and as this is changing, and you've been at the forefront of this, is here's the role. I need something to fill, someone to fill that role, and it becomes, this box that you are in. And I think managers and leaders do miss an opportunity when they don't take the time to truly understand what someone's goals are, what they're particularly good at, where they're struggling, because that role may be too limiting or it may be too much for that individual. And I think it's a powerful lesson that you are sharing, that if we really get to the heart of the matter, who is this individual? What is he or she capable of? What does she want? And how can I, as a manager, as a leader, help her or him get where she wants, which might mean they don't remain on my team. I mean, that's I'm not going to call it altruistic, because it's, you also need to get your results, but it's coming from a place of not just logic, but from a place of heart that says, I care about this individual while I care about the goals of the organization I am with. That's amazing.
And when you're in a relationship for 20 plus years, you need to recognize that those goals change. Life happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So goals setting out, as we mature, as different things occur, that landscape may change, and it's important to stay in touch with that. It's not all altruistic, Rebecca.
You're a bottom line kind of girl.
Well, the reality is that you get the best performance out of people who are in the right place, right? So it's important for the team dynamic, for us to be in tune to what we each want to get out of the relationship and where we want to grow. And the part that's counterintuitive for some when I say it is, or not grow.
Mm-hmm.
I think I speak for myself, people in a personality type like mine, in roles like mine, often impose the desire to climb the corporate ladder, if you will, on others. And not everybody wants to do that. And I believe we need to respect them for it, and let them define their own hopes and dreams, goals, if you will.
Yeah. I wonder how you pull that out of them. How do you guys do that? I'm thinking about my own team, some of which are very clear where they want to go and how they want to grow. And others I look at, I'm like, you're in the same place you were 6 years, and nothing I'm doing is encouraging you to get there. I'm disappointed. They're not disappointed. Am I just not getting to who they are at that point? Am I not asking the right questions? Or is it they're just comfortable and this is where they want to be? They want to just sort of coast in that place.
I don't think we celebrate, and I'm generalizing, obviously. I don't think we celebrate that enough. We need people in those roles who become experts in whatever their area of responsibility is and decide to stay there for a long time. And we need to recognize and value what they're bringing to the team. As I said before, if I had a whole team, everybody just like me, it would be, chaos.
Which is kind of what you were saying, Deb, right? We don't want 16 Lisa Oaks.
I sure don't. We all have to hire those who have skills complementary to ours so that we can collectively grow. When you ask how, Rebecca, two words came to mind. One is time, and the other is trust. And it just takes time, talking, building the relationship, but really it comes down to trust. Do you have their back when the stuff hits the fan? Yeah. And that you can't rush that. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. So
and it's an investment, really. It's
Yeah.
an investment.
An investment in our employees and in our team and in our
Mhm.
franchisees.
Yeah.
So you have a philosophy. You were telling Deb and I about this a little bit earlier. You have a philosophy that not everybody wants to be a leader, and we don't need to be building leaders, right? Um, I think that's an interesting philosophy because all training, employee training, and management training is leadership training in one way or another, where we're trying to get people to, like you said, go up the corporate ladder. I just find that an interesting philosophy, and it actually had me step back for a second and ask myself, as a leader, have I pushed people too much? Have I expected things that are unfair or pushes people out of their comfort zone? Or are there times it is, as a leader, something I should be doing? And I'm speaking, when I say I mean collective I, as leaders or managers of people. Are there times when someone doesn't know themselves enough where maybe we should push them just a
Sure.
smidgen, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I do believe it's a counterintuitive thought process, if you will. And I've been known to have a few. But Rebecca, and we didn't talk about this in advance, but it really comes back to your line of work, Zoracle, and how you tap into what people are all about, right? And I think, earlier I said it takes time, it's an investment. I believe all of that. But what you offer can be a shortcut too. To understand where someone is, from their personality, their innate desires, and what have you, and help them navigate against those skills and hopes and dreams. It always comes back to hopes and dreams.
It's all about the hopes and dreams. Deb, I'm curious, with your background in franchising, and now also as a co-president of the women's business organization that you're with in Colorado, how do you deal with this when folks are not stepping up and you can see potential in them, or you're partnered with them? How do you deal with all of that?
Sometimes it's that person that's looking from the outside in, and you have to, and I'm going to go back to Lisa's skill of negotiating. You have to negotiate with them and show them the light. You can do this. Give them that faith. Give them that trust. My small network during COVID, it was, we had to go to Zoom, and believe it or not, these ladies were deer in the headlights. Can't do it, won't do it. Now, they got it, it works, but it's like training, teaching, trust, showing them, and just let them dabble a little bit. Let them fail if they have to, or, watch and cheer them when they succeed. So, it's just the outside looking in. It's like, I think you've got it. In fact, I know you've got it. Let me show you what to do with it. And I think that's what Lisa does.
The picture I got, and I don't know if this is the same thing you're seeing, Lisa, the picture I got based on this time and trust piece is when a parent is teaching a child how to ride a bike, it takes the child out of the comfort zone, but the child completely trusts the parent that they'll be right alongside to take away some of the fear and the risk. And the child has enough desire to want to have the freedom of riding a bike all at the same time. So we, as managers, leaders, whatever, need to dangle that carrot. Here's what you're going to get when you ride that bike, and help them develop their dream, as Lisa is saying, but I'll also be alongside of them, that they can trust us if we push them past their comfort zone, there's going to be benefits to get to their dreams. That's the picture I got, Deb, when you were sharing that. Because like you said, Zoom for some people is out of their comfort zone, but you push them. And yeah, at least.
So, I think what we're all talking about is intuitive, and we do it all day long. And here we are trying to put labels and definition around it. And, I go back to when I started when I left Subway and started my consulting business. Deb was my mentor in how to present on LinkedIn, on Zoom, otherwise on social media, and practice that. We all have that network, I hope, around us where we can tap into subject matter expertise that's just not our strong suit and learn from each other. Isn't that the core of what franchising is?
It's relationship. Yeah, it's relationship.
Yeah. And it's collaboration and learning from each other. As franchisors, I feel strongly that our job is to find the best practices and then share them. We don't have all the answers. It's not franchisors teaching franchisees how to do it. It's franchisors repackaging what franchisees are doing successfully and finding a vehicle to put that out in a way that's meaningful to franchisees to help them grow their businesses to the success of their dreams, help them build a life they love.
So interesting. I'm wondering if I could shift gears a little bit, Lisa. When you look at your life in a hindsight sort of way, was there any pivotal moment or life lesson or obstacle that you had to go through that really changed your life or had you think of things in a different way?
Yes. Actually, I think of two. We've talked quite a bit about how I transitioned from a summer employee to a full-time employee at Subway, which was a mental and intellectual shift. When I was in law school, I didn't know what Subway was. I didn't know anything about franchising for sure. So that was a big step when I realized I was going to stay in Connecticut and do this as opposed to go back to New York and be on Wall Street, which was probably my view at the time. And then more recently, when Fred Deluca was diagnosed with leukemia, and it became apparent to him, and therefore to those of us who work closely with him, that he wasn't going to win the battle, and we needed to unwind the division that I had started for him, and then ultimately our relationship. And that was a very difficult and emotional time. It is still emotional to think about and talk about, but also it led me to where I am today. And I'm very blessed to be working with Mike and Bob and the team at BIGGBY Coffee. Not a day goes by when I'm not channeling Fred in my head and how he would handle this situation or that. So he's still very much with us. But that was a difficult time, emotionally, personally, and professionally.
Wow, that's dramatic. That's dramatic. I mean, it literally changed your life.
Yeah. And I said, I've often been quoted as saying, so I was at Subway for 29 years. My next gig is going to be 30. I'll make it to 30 in my next gig.
Yeah. And you couldn't have been directed, I think, to a more ideal franchise. I mean, we all, or at least Lisa knows, and I think Rebecca knows now, I'm a BIGGBY fan.
Yeah,
not just the product. The product is special. I mean, I drink coffee and I want the best coffee and I have it auto shipped to me. But the people behind the coffee Rebecca, you couldn't find a better team. Their whole team, all of them And it's, what Lisa, what Bob, what Mike has built, they're just, if I were to go back to work, I would ask for a job, but I'm retired.
Wow, that says a lot. That says a lot to even ponder the idea of coming out. I called it semi-retirement. And you said, nope,
I'm retired.
full retirement. We're still doing some volunteer stuff, but
Yes.
I
get paid in coffee. Did you not know that? So when I do work, I get paid in coffee or wine. It works great. I'll do anything you want. You have to pay me coffee. It has to be BIGGBY or wine.
So you're stocked up on BIGGBY coffee then, aren't you?
I am.
Deb's an awesome brand ambassador. And I'll add to her comments about the people. It has become easy for me to talk about how Bob and Mike and others in the organization are out in the world supporting people in building a life they love. Bob and his wife, Michelle, literally travel the world to work with farmers who are the source of origin of our coffee. But it's not just inside out. I feel the love and support of them in my position, in my career. So, it is very meaningful and very personal and very important. So they're stuck with me for life.
There you go. There you go.
I tell them that almost every day.
So you went from one good marriage to another good marriage, basically, right?
Yeah.
Where you're loved, you're appreciated, your talent is being used to exactly the way it needs to be being used. The way Deb is describing this BIGGBY coffee and the way you're describing it, I'm very curious about the culture of the organization, because you clearly fit within this culture. Can you talk a little bit more about that from a franchisee perspective, as well as our corporate employees?
Maybe. I'm certainly not the most well-versed on the subject, but I will tell you that we just came out of our annual franchise owner conference, and the energy, the emotion, the passion is what everybody left with. The work that Bob and Michelle are doing with the farmers was showcased first and foremost. And that is personal. That is about family. That is about putting food on the table. Mm-hmm. And the franchise owners understanding how every one of those bags of coffee behind Deb contributes to supporting those farms and farmers. And with that comes a commitment by the farmers to treat their employees well and, make sure they have a lifestyle that reflects our company goals. And we've talked a lot about Bob and Michelle's work with coffee. Concurrently, Mike is out in the world talking about entrepreneurship. He's teaching at the University of Michigan. He's written a book, Grind, which I highly recommend. And I highly recommend reading it soon, because very soon his second in the series, Grow, will be published. Ooh. That's at the publisher now, and he contemplates a 3-book series. So Grind is to take from concept to cash flow, and Grow takes us from cash flow on. I feel very, very, very appreciated for the work and the contribution I bring to the organization. And one of the moments I am very proud of is when Mike asked me to write the foreword for Grind.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's definitely a professional highlight for me. There's a lot of Fred in the forward as well as in the book. Mike and Bob had the opportunity to interact with Fred after we met in 2006. So he was at that time very influential on their business, and they've incorporated many of the tips and philosophies that he shared with them during the 10 years they were interacting together. So it comes through a lot in the book Grind. I've known a franchisor or two to use Grind as their book club of franchisees. And one of the aspects that goes along with the book Grind is what Mike invented and calls the Grind Score, which measures, and it's personal, you don't have to share it, you take the test to measure where you are on the entrepreneur scale. Is business ownership right for you? It's not right for everybody. So
I love this, because obviously a lot of what Zorkel does is to help people determine if they have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So read the book, guys, those of you that can. I love the idea, Deb, of a book club also, because then you're pulling ideas from others and what their perception is of certain pieces that, you know, oftentimes we miss. Somebody else is going to pick up in that same paragraph or same chapter. But you did just describe the culture, you know that. You know, you may not call it, but you just described the culture. Your organization is a purpose-driven organization.
Absolutely.
Committed to the farmers, committed to the franchisees, committed to our employees, to help them discover who they are and live the American dream, whatever that is for that individual.
Right. And that goes for our vendors, that goes for, you know, all aspects of the organization. At Subway, our vendors were with us for 30 plus years, you know. At BIGGBY, we put labels on it, but in a very real sense, we lived it at Subway as well. Early on, Bob explained to me that our vision of 1,000 stores by 2028 is so that people listen to us when we talk about the vision and the purpose. You know, if you're a small business, you only have, you know, so much of an audience, if you will. The bigger the business, the louder the message. So franchise development, which is my area of responsibility here, is the vehicle to get that message out there.
So beautiful. I hate to end this conversation, but we're going to have to get on with our days. I'm just so glad, Lisa, that you took time. How do people get hold of you? How do people learn more about this beautiful culture and this wonderful product, BIGGBY Coffee?
One answer, LinkedIn. Thanks to Deb. I'm very active in growing my network on LinkedIn. And so is BIGGBY Coffee. You can read all about Bob and Michelle's travels. Their role is labeled One Big Island in Space. So there's a blog on LinkedIn and YouTube. Shorthand is OBIIS, OBIS, One Big Island in Space. Follow BIGGBY Coffee. You'll see Mike's book tour travels. He'll be in Cincinnati and Atlanta coming up are his visits. You know, meet Mike.
Meet Mike.
Meet Mike.
Fabulous. We'll make sure to put all of that information in your write-up when we
great.
Your video, so make sure I get it also.
Sure.
Closing, Deb, what are your final thoughts about Miss Lisa and this interview and what we might have learned from it?
Well, I'm so glad you invited her.
Me
and
too.
to show her passion. She's got more passion than most folks do in franchising. You just don't always see it because she works behind the curtain. But yes, she's in a perfect role. I'm so appreciative of our friendship. Fred Deluca is the one who introduced us. And because of Fred, I know Lisa. And because of Lisa, I know Bob and Mike. And it just goes on and on. And yes. So, and Rebecca, it's always fun to spend time with you too.
I know. We need to do it more often.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what the Franchise Woman podcast is all about. It's about the intersection of purpose and passion. And Lisa is a beautiful example of that. BIGGBY Coffee is a beautiful example of it. It's also about profits, which of course happens when we are living within our strengths and within our purpose in life. And it's about the relationships, which both of you highlighted are so important, not just for our well-being, right, but for building a business. So I want to thank you both for making this happen. I really, really appreciate it. And those of you listening in, we'll see you next week on another episode.
Thank you both very much. I appreciate you.
Yeah.